Welcome to the Brand Wise podcast, where we talk about the big branding moves that business owners are making and the why behind it. I'm your host, Jess Freeman, here to help you be wise and be bold. Today, we're chatting with a former client of mine, Melissa of the Hormone Dietitian. Melissa is an award-winning registered dietitian and nutritionist who works with clients to figure out the root cause of their symptoms and create a personalized plan for them that goes far beyond diet so they can finally feel better and balance their hormones. Now, Melissa rebranded a few years ago, and she's had a lot happen since her rebrand. So I hope today's episode inspires you to see what's possible in business when you really step into your expertise and your brand. She also mentions how she even wants to maybe tweak some things like her colors now, several years later. And I think that's a good reminder that even after big rebrands, you can have small tweaks down the line too. So without further ado, let's hop into today's conversation. Melissa, thank you so much for being on the podcast. To get us started, what is your brand all about?
Well, hello, and thank you so much for having me. I'm Melissa Groves Azzaro, and my brand is the Hormone Dietitian. And I aim to be the no BS hormone nutrition education resource for women. I mostly work with women who are struggling with PCOS, any sort of hormonally driven conditions like endometriosis, and just, as I'm approaching that age myself, more in the perimenopause and menopause realm.
Nice. And you are one of the best examples of someone who dives into their niche. Anytime I have a client who's like, oh, I don't know about niching down or I feel nervous about it, I'm like, Melissa is one of my clients. And I mean, it's been several years since we worked together, but I still call you my client. And I'm like, go check out Melissa. Like all of her stuff is so she just lives in the niche and I love it so much. It's so easy to recommend you also. I have several friends who have PCOS and I'm like, oh, I know somebody for you. I just go follow her.
Yeah, thank you. I think, the whole concept of niching, it really got popular. I don't know, you've been in the business world, online business world for about as long as I have. Around 10 years ago or so, people were saying to niche way down. And so when I was starting my business and thinking about the types of people that I wanted to work with and the types of clients that I could get the best results for, PCOS was really top of mind to start with. And, it's a niche, but it's 10 to 20% of reproductive aged women. So it's not a small niche. Some dietitians and other health practitioners trying to niche so far. It's like, I work with volleyball players in Ohio who are under 5'2". And it's like, well, okay, well, there's 3 people you might be able to reach.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of think about the size of your niche when you're considering a niche. And that's actually a really good segue into my name, my brand, the Hormone Dietitian, because I always intended to expand that beyond PCOS. PCOS was an easy place to start, but then, opening the door, my name is broad enough that it opens the door for working with other hormone-driven conditions.
Yes. And I love that because it is specific, but still there's a lot you can cover in that niche. Because I do think like you said, there is something to be said about being too niche and then limiting yourself. So you mentioned your name, which is the Hormone Dietitian, but you used to have a different business name. So let's talk about your rebrand, what you used to be and kind of why you made that shift.
Yeah, so I opened my business at the end of 2017, early 2018. I'm a second career dietitian, so this was all new to me at the time. And when it came time to choose the name for my business, I originally branded as Avocado Grove Nutrition. And the reason for that is avocados are my favorite food. I mean, who doesn't love avocado?
Same.
And Grove, is a play on my last name, which was Groves. This was before I was married, Avocado Grove Nutrition. And I had a cute little tree as my branding and very, green, naturey kind of branding. I also, and I talk about this a lot with dietitians, when you're first starting your business, a website is a really big expense. Branding is a big expense. Trademarking is a big expense. So, I did as much as I could on my own when I first started. So, I had the website on Wix and I made my logo on Canva and, I did file my business name with my state and, all the proper things that you do. That was 2018. 2019, I was, kind of struggling to grow on social media. And I think with the Avocado Grove Nutrition brand, it was a small brand. It was appropriate for a local in-person private practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I wanted to grow beyond that, I had to think bigger. So I started, the more I was learning about social media and growing on social media and optimizing search terms, even that plays into SEO a little bit, is I wanted to make my handle on Instagram be something that people were searching for. So that was when I switched to the hormone dietitian on Instagram. And I kind of tell people the name chose me because the second I did that, it took off. People are searching for those terms. And so my Instagram was growing and I had a wait list. I really was busier than I could handle at that point. And that was the time when I started to realize that people knew me on Instagram, but if they went to try to find my website, they couldn't find me because it was Avocado Grove Nutrition, or they went to find my Facebook and it was Avocado Grove Nutrition. And so I started thinking about the process of a rebrand and what that would involve. And at that point, I was also ready to have a big girl website, something that was really built for more traffic and built to support my business. So that was when I had reached out to you and gotten on your list, and we were all scheduled to go with the rebrand. And I was kind of simultaneously behind the scenes at this point working with a graphic designer on my new logo. And my new branding colors and a photographer to have photo shoots that we could use that would match my new branding.
Yes. Yes. You went like all in, which is not required. I know some people are like, oh my gosh, but like, I don't want to or can't afford like the logo and the website and the pictures. And you don't have to do that, but sometimes it does make for a very fabulous reveal for the new brand.
Yeah, especially, my branding is really more luxury branding. It's very upscale branding. And so I felt if I were going to launch it piecemeal with some, janky photos or, broken website, it just wasn't representative of client experience that I was promoting, which is this, wait list practice.
Yeah. Because as long as I've known you, I don't remember a time that I've not heard you talking about like, I have a wait list. I need less clients. I need less fewer inquiries because I have so many people wanting to work with me. And then at one point you had a podcast, you've released a cookbook. So like you have a lot on your plate. And so I think moving into this new brand was a really good move for you. But was there any part of the old brand that was hard to leave behind, like when you were making that transition?
From a branding perspective, no, not at all. From a just pain in the butt, having to change everything everywhere, that's been a little bit more of a challenge. Some things are still the old business name.
Yeah. And I mean, that's definitely part of the rebrand. That's like the not fun part of the rebrand is when you have to go and change everything. As someone who has recently rebranded myself, I can also say, yes, very tedious. And you're like, oh, I have to change that too. I forgot about that little piece.
Thankfully, there are people like you out there who can help, because one of the most brilliant things is any emails that come to my old email automatically get forwarded to my new email, but I would have never been able to figure that tech out on my own.
Has there been any, I assume, or I hope the answer is no, but has there been any regret or challenges with the brand? I know it's not brand new. You've been living in it for a few years, but initially were you like, maybe I shouldn't have done this, like niching down, or were you like, so glad you did it?
Definitely not with the niching down. I always knew that I wanted to work in women's health and I wanted to help women. And, the way that I've been building out my programs is starting with PCOS and fleshing all that out, and then moving on to hormone imbalances and fleshing all that out. And now I'm transitioning also into the perimenopause, menopause space and fleshing all that out. So it's been great. It's allowed me to really kind of grow with my clients, because a lot of my PCOS clients are now entering that perimenopause, menopause. So that's fun. Classic regret. I wish I had done it sooner. I wish I had done it from the start. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us feel that when you're like, oh, this feels a lot better. I wish I had done this a long time ago. It's just getting over that. I think sometimes that mental or emotional hurdle of like, there's a lot that goes into this. It takes time and money and energy. But then once it's done, you're like, okay, this feels really good.
Yeah. And, I have some minor tweaks with the brand, with like brand colors that I feel like isn't quite complete yet, which you really don't know until you're in there and you're living it, and that really comes more from readability, making sure that if I have a black font, can I read it on this color? Or if I have a white font, is it readable? And as my eyes are getting older, I'm much more sensitive to things like that as well, where it's like, okay, we've got to increase readability for folks.
Yeah, that's always important. I know I see that a lot. Obviously, as a designer, I notice colors, but that's something I see when people rebrand, especially if they DIY, they don't always think that part through of like, how are these colors going to read on the website? Or can I combine the colors? Or, I do tell people just default to like white or black text when in doubt, because that's always going to be easy to read most of the time, rather than trying to always use a brand color and ending up, oh, this color isn't easy to read. So I'm glad you mentioned that. How has your rebrand impacted your business over the last few years?
I think it's just continued to help it grow, especially with SEO. I know that's something you wanted to talk to me about as well. I'm not back there as often as I should be. It's one of those things that never quite makes it to the top of my list. But people are searching. And so I get a lot of website traffic without a lot of effort. Still, Instagram is the largest driver of traffic to my website, but organic search is up there too. And so people are coming into my world from that. The fact that I've trademarked the hormone dietitian as well really helps, because if someone tries to use that, they can't. So it's really kind of helped with being the first to claim that and use it. The trademarking process is something, again, it's money up front, but it saves you a lot down the road, because I deal with copycats.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of dietitians who are creating original content deal with copycats, and it's so much easier to quash it when you actually have filed trademarks and copyrights. You can use the big scary threats instead of just take it down. I was here first,
Yeah. Yeah. The trademark does come in handy. What about with your new brand, in terms of like, you have this luxury brand, you have this name, you have this niche. How do you feel like, or did it play into you getting your book deal to publish your cookbook?
Yeah, so this all happened before the book. So we sort of had everything in place, and I actually had a couple of proposals for books that I had turned down before agreeing to work with the publisher that I worked with. But they found me. I didn't do any outreach. I didn't do any searching. They found me. It was wonderful. And it's still going strong. The book's about 4 years old now.
Already been 4 years.
Summer of 2020 was when it came out. Yeah.
Wow. I was going to say it's only like 2 years old.
Like that COVID pandemic tax on time where, I don't know, I think we all should get those years back.
Yes, I agree. But I think that's really, really cool to see, just that like you weren't out there pitching, but they came to you, they found you. And obviously, like your content, your brand, your reach on social media, all of those pieces play together for them to be like, she's the right person for this.
Yeah. If you want to be published by an actual publisher and, as opposed to going the self-publishing route, but the first thing they look at is your audience. Do you have people you can sell this book to? I hear that in other book niches as well. It's not just cookbooks.
Yeah, 100%. It's because they don't want to pay all this to create your book and you have 500 followers and they're like, hope we can sell the book. Like they look at it, the whole piece. So that's really cool. I love that you got to do that. How have you personally kind of evolved as a business owner over the last several years after your rebrand?
Always asking myself, is this in line with the brand and where I want the brand to move forward? Sort of thinking about the brand as a separate entity. It's a little hard when you're a solo business owner and it's basically me and I'm the face of the business. I'm the practitioner behind the business.
Right.
But having the brand be something more than just me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes, I don't know about you, sometimes I like that there's like some separation. Like because I'm like you, I'm the face of my brand also. But sometimes it's like, what's best for the brand, for the business, not just for me as a person. Like, not that I ignore my own needs. Sometimes it feels easier to like, okay, what's best for this?
Right. So a perfect example, if you listen to these, business coaches and these grow on social media and they're like, show your face. It doesn't matter if you're in pajamas. It doesn't matter if you're in workout clothes. Just pop on, no makeup, do your thing. And I worked with a stylist before my last photo shoot, which was like the best thing ever because we just, I had her on Zoom in front of my closet.
Oh,
and
nice.
Pull that, and putting things from my own closet together in a way that I would have never thought to do. And then she's like, okay, with this and this, you need to buy a belt or you need to buy these shoes or buy these earrings and put it with this. But she made the comment when I was working with her, she was like, I was looking at some of your reels and I realized, you're showing up in a very casual way sometimes on Instagram. And I don't know that that's necessarily aligned with your brand. I thought about it and I was like, she is right. I need to be representing the brand, not just showing up as me.
That makes total sense. And what's funny is that you and I are complete opposite because I used to on YouTube, because I've been on YouTube for 6 or 7 years. And when I first started, I wore like my old corporate clothes. Like I would put on my business professional clothes to record. But I never did that on Instagram or client calls. And then over time realized, why am I dressing like this for YouTube and for my brand photos when I am a t-shirt girl through and through? This is who I am. This is how you will find me every single day of the week, unless it's date night. And even then, it's still pushing it sometimes. To wrap up, what advice do you have for someone who's also thinking of going through the rebrand process?
Really think it through. The most important thing, because it's so much work, and it's going to take years for you to get the brand correct in all the places, right? So you don't want to be doing this more than once. Ideally you want to rebrand, and that's everything that you've learned thus far about your business and in your business. And really making your brand something that can grow with you through the future, as opposed to something you're going to keep changing every 2 years. I see a lot of dietitians changing their handles on social media every 2 years. And it's like, how can you ever gain traction if people don't know who you are? And, even me, and it's dietitians I know, and I'll see the new handle pop up and be like, who's this? And it doesn't foster that feeling of, oh, I know this person, I trust this person. No, like trust factor, right? I mean, that's still legit. And if you're changing your mind every 5 minutes, people aren't going to know or trust. So it's okay to rebrand, but you want to think about the longevity of that potential brand.
I think that is really important. Once you really do some deep work, figure out who you are, what your brand is about. Okay, yes, you might tweak your colors, you might tweak your fonts, those little iterations are totally fine. I mean, even the big corporations do that where their logo just slightly changes. So don't be scared of I am locked into this brand forever, but think longer than 2 years.
There's this potential to fall into traps of trends.
Oh, yes.
Get so used to that from social media because it's what's trending this week, what's trending today, what's trending this minute, right? And so if all your colors and your sort of feel are based on what's trending on social media as opposed to what's truly representative of your brand. When we were looking for resources, reference materials for my brand, we were looking at very classic, lasting sort of brands, things like New Yorker magazine, that's sort of the feel of the fonts, and they use a lot of black, their branding. And so that was something that it's going to be the same 40 years from now. Probably that was the same 40 years ago.
Well, thank you so much for sharing behind the scenes of your rebrand. I know we mentioned your business name, so we kind of know where to find you, but can you share where we can connect with you online?
Yeah, my website is The Hormone Dietitian, and it was designed by the lovely Jess. And I'm on Instagram at the.hormone.dietitian. I also have one for other dietitians. I'm the marketing dietitian on Instagram, so you can find me there. That's really where I share some of those tips from my 20 years in marketing before becoming a dietitian. I don't touch it very often, but it's one of those when I have free time, it's fun for me to talk about that kind of stuff. So yes, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. I will put all those links in the show notes for you guys. But thank you so much for being here. If today's branding story inspired you and you are ready to start your own rebrand adventure, let's make it happen. Head over to justcreatives.com/rebrand to explore how we can work on your brand together. If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to leave a review on iTunes and tune in next week for another episode.